So welcome back to the course on Articulate Storyline 360, and in today's tutorial we want to speak about the storyline structure, especially the story view, the scene view, the slide view, and a little more about the storyline anatomy. So before we proceed, we just open up the Storyline 360 software. So let's wait for it to get started. So this is how it would appear right at the start. We click on new project and you will see like when we do this, what we are presented with is nothing but the story view. Now, we have said this before, like a storyline project is basically a story project, and a story project may consist of different modules or different chapters. So, those things can be thought of to be as scenes. Now, what happens is like I can go ahead and I can click a new scene, so this will become a new chapter. So this chapter will have its own pages or slides, and basically anytime I click on the slide or on that page, if you may call it that, you will see that I am presented with something which we refer to as the slide view, and it shows like the scene to which it belongs. We can obviously go ahead and add a new slide and keep adding new slides. Please do understand that anything that we insert in a slide is independent of the other slide. So I may insert say a box here, a button here, anything. So this whatever I insert is a part of this particular slide or page. It doesn't belong to the other slide. As of now I don't need the other slide, so I can go ahead and delete this. So basically the deletion of the other slide has nothing to do with the first slide. So well, all this is important to know because we can always switch between story view and the slide view. Anytime I am in the basically any of the slides here, I belong to a particular scene and I can move between different scenes. So I can go ahead and check what happens to my different scene. So just think of it like, different chapters, and maybe you are creating a max chapter, history chapter. So max will have its own different pages, history will have its own different pages, and they all belong to the education story project. So think of it in that way. Now you can anytime switch between the story view. You can look at the different scenes that it encompasses. So you can say, for example, this is say max, and you can then name the slides. So this can say become algebra, this can become geometry, and here the other thing can become like say I will say science, for example, and then I can give this different name, say uh, thermodynamics, and I can keep adding, like I can go ahead and I can add a new slide. But the way I do that is like first double clicking on the slide so that I can enter into the slide view, and then basically I can go here, select the slide, and then click a new slide. So this is how we can add slides. Now when I remain in this slide, obviously I don't really know what's happening to my like max scene. So for that I go back to my story view, go back to my max thing, click on any of the slides inside max, and I come to the slide view and I can see each of the independent slides. Now it's also pretty important to understand that within the slides we will have something which is referred to as the slide layers. Now if you see here like on the algebra slide, what we see on the screen or what we preview basically is nothing but the initial layer, and that's referred to as the base layer. When we speak about slide layers, we'll be looking into this at great depth. A slide can have many layers. You can think of slide built up as different layers. So what we see on screen is basically the base layer. We can add on layers, so we can create a new layer and we can hide the base layer objects. So don't worry if this is getting too heavy for you. It's just to say that we can have different layers, and then like in the new layers of the slide we can go ahead and like insert again different objects, maybe a button or like maybe different character objects or different things like that. But the thing to realize here is like anytime we preview this, we will be only able to see like the base layer things. So I will just give it a name, just concept test. So we are just naming the project. So I will just go ahead and preview this. The way you preview is by clicking on preview and then previewing the slide, because the scene would be showing everything that the scene contains, all the slides, but slide is just for the slide. So we can see just like the base layer button here. So we are not able to see the other layer which had the red thing, red button of the slide. So how do we derive that? Basically, we are seeing just the base layer thing. We are not able to see the top layer, I mean this red button. So we do that using something called as triggers. So we can use triggers and we can get user responses and then basically direct them to the layer. So think of it as a MCQ question, and wherein like the user selects a right response and you want to direct them to a correct layer. So you can use like those kind of responses to build in triggers and then direct the users to show a certain layer. Well, if this is getting too heavy for you, we have dedicated videos which will cover this topic. Today I actually wanted to explain to you what's the difference between story view, slide view, what are scenes, and like how they all gel up together. It's very important to understand all of this, because the way I think of a story is that it gives us the whole picture. It tells us about all the chapters, all the scenes, all the slides, everything. But if you want to enter into a certain scene and a certain slide, the way you do that is by double clicking on the slide, and the slide view opens up and also tells us about the scene it contains. You can always move between the different scenes and you can see the different scenes. In case you want to add a scene, you go ahead in the story view and you can add a new scene, and it's very easy to do this. You can see the different branching of scenes and like how they branch into different slides. The whole picture of the story, the whole movie is here. So this is how like the story view, the scene view, and the slide view all sum up. And also we have learned a little bit about like what slide layers are, and we will be looking into triggers in great depth. So with this in mind, we will shortly be progressing into like articulate concepts. So stay tuned.